My gross wife defended her dad after her sister confessed something horrifying. I don't even know how to process what just happened. I feel sick typing this. This is probably going to sound fake, but it's not. I just need to get it off my chest. So yeah, my wife defended her dad after her sister told us he made her feel unsafe growing up. And not in a he was strict way. Like creepy boundary crossing kind of way. And my wife? She just shrugged it off. Said her sister was exaggerating. That it wasn't that bad. I can't look at her the same. Me and my wife, let's call her Emily, have been married for 4 years, together for 6. She's always been really tight with her family. Like, too tight. Constant group chats, weekly dinners, every holiday together. And her dad Gary always gave me a weird feeling. The too long hugs, offhand comments about how girls grow up fast, all that. I always tried to ignore it. Told myself I was overthinking. Maybe he was just one of those old school dads that never evolved socially. Anyway, last weekend we were at her sister's place, Sophie. Just me, Emily, and her. Emily stepped out to take a call and Sophie and I were just chatting. Then she hit me with, "Did Emily ever tell you what our dad did when we were younger?" I thought she was about to say something embarrassing or funny, but she looked dead serious. She said he used to touch me. I was stunned. She didn't cry, didn't look away. Just calmly told me how he'd accidentally walk in while she was changing. Say things about how her body was developing. One time he stood in the bathroom while she showered. No excuse. Just stood there. She said she told their mom once and got shut down. Told not to make trouble. Eventually it stopped. No apology, no explanation. Then she said something that really messed me up. Emily knows. She just acts like it wasn't a big deal. I couldn't believe it. But I had to ask. That night I brought it up. "Hey, did your dad ever do anything weird when you guys were kids?" She went quiet. Then she sighed and said, "Is this about Sophie?" I said yeah. And she rolled her eyes. She always makes it sound worse than it was. I asked, "Did he touch her?" And she goes dead serious. Okay, maybe he crossed a line a couple times, but it's not like he hurt her. She just holds on to things forever. That was the moment I started seeing my wife differently. After that night, things were never the same. I couldn't look at Emily the same way. The woman I thought I married? She wasn't the same person anymore. She just shrugged off her sister's pain like it was nothing. And not just that, the way she defended her dad like nothing was wrong with his actions made my skin crawl. I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything Sophie told me. I just felt so disgusted. I didn't even know how to talk to Emily after that. We were both in the same bed, but there was this distance between us I couldn't cross. The next day, I went to work and tried to push everything out of my head, but I couldn't. I kept thinking, why would she defend him like that? What kind of person defends someone who did that? I had to know more. So, yeah, I did something I'm not proud of. I went through Emily's stuff. I opened the nightstand drawer, the one I knew she kept old journals in. I wasn't sure what I was hoping to find, but I knew I needed some kind of answer. And I found it. It wasn't a journal entry or anything. Just a folded piece of paper, almost crumpled, like it was written in a rush. The first line hit me like a brick. "I know what Dad did was wrong, but I'm so tired of being the one who has to hate him for it." That's when I felt the pit in my stomach. I kept reading. She went on about how Sophie holds on to things and how it's better to move on. That she didn't want to be the one carrying everyone else's emotional baggage. And then came the part that really hit. Not every mistake makes someone a monster. People change. He's been a good grandpa. I froze. I couldn't believe what I was reading. I wanted to burn the paper, but I couldn't look away. How could she say that? How could she just excuse it? I've never felt more betrayed in my life. I didn't confront her that night. I couldn't. I needed time to think. But every time I looked at her, I couldn't shake the thought, how could I live with someone who didn't care about their own sister's pain? That night, I texted Sophie. I told her I believed her. I told her I was sorry. And then I asked the question I had to know. "Has anything ever happened with Emily?" Sophie responded almost immediately. "No, not that I know of. But she's always defended him. Even when she caught him watching me through the bathroom crack. She just told me to lock the door tighter next time. That was it for me. That was the moment I realized I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. I couldn't live with someone who could let that slide. I couldn't take it anymore. After reading that letter and texting Sophie, I was done pretending. I needed answers. I needed to know if the woman I'd been living with was the same person I thought she was. I couldn't unsee what I now knew, and I couldn't just ignore it. That night, after dinner, Emily was sitting on the couch watching TV while I stood in the kitchen, barely able to keep my hands from shaking. I couldn't stop thinking about everything. About her dad. About Sophie's pain. About her reaction. And I knew I had to ask her directly. I sat down across from her, trying to hold it together. She looked at me like I was just a little off. But she didn't know how deep I'd already dug. The lie had already grown so big between us. I wasn't sure if it was even worth fixing. "Emily," I said, my voice tight. "We need to talk." She turned the volume down and looked at me, waiting for me to continue. I didn't waste any more time. I read the letter. "The one in your nightstand." Her face immediately changed. It was like a switch flipped. I could see the walls go up, the defensiveness take over. She wasn't even trying to hide it. "What letter?" she asked, her voice steady, but her eyes darting away for a second. That was enough to tell me she already knew what I was talking about. The one where you talk about your dad and how Sophie's exaggerating everything. You basically said he didn't do anything wrong. There was a pause, and for the first time in our marriage I saw Emily shut down. No explanation, no defense. Just silence. I didn't think it was that serious, she said. Almost quietly. She overreacted. She's always been dramatic. Dad didn't do anything that bad. I shook my head, trying to stay calm. Emily, how can you say that? How can you look at your sister, who's been carrying this pain, and say it wasn't a big deal? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she took a deep breath and looked at me like I was the one who was crazy. You don't get it. He's my dad. I can't just turn my back on him. That's when I lost it. It's not about him. It's about her. Your sister trusted you, and you dismissed her. You chose your dad over your own flesh and blood. Her eyes started to tear up, but she didn't cry. She just stared at me, unable to say anything. And in that silence, it hit me like a punch to the gut. She wasn't the woman I married anymore. Maybe I don't know who you are anymore, I said. I don't think I can live with someone who can't see how wrong this is. I can't be with you if you're willing to excuse this. Emily stood up, her hands shaking. You don't mean that. I didn't answer. I just stared at her. In that moment, I knew what I had to do. It wasn't just about the betrayal. It was about everything I'd ignored. Every red flag I'd brushed off. But this was too much. I'm leaving, I said. My voice steady despite the storm inside me. I can't stay here anymore. Not with you. And I walked out, not knowing if I'd ever be able to come back. I didn't know what to expect when I walked out. I thought maybe I'd feel a sense of relief. But instead, all I felt was emptiness. Like I had just ripped a part of myself out and left it behind. I didn't go far. Just to a nearby hotel, one of those cheap places where you can pay by the hour. I needed space. Time to think. But the thing is, even after a night of pacing around, lying awake in the cold, I didn't feel any better. I wasn't relieved, I was numb. My phone kept buzzing. Texts from Emily. Calls. Voicemails. But I didn't pick up. I wasn't ready to talk to her. I didn't want to hear the excuses or the apologies. I needed time to process, to really understand what had just happened. The next day, I drove to my brother's place. I needed to talk to someone who wasn't going to judge me for leaving. I couldn't talk to my friends, most of them had met Emily and liked her. But my brother, he knew me better. He knew what it was like to feel trapped in a situation where you don't know who you can trust anymore. So, what happened? He asked after I'd explained everything. I went through it all, how Emily defended her dad, how Sophie had opened up, how Emily just couldn't bring herself to see it. He listened and then he gave me the only advice that made sense. Dude, you can't stay with someone who doesn't see the problem. You've tried talking to her, but she's not listening. That's not something you fix. You can't unknow what you know. And he was right. I couldn't. The worst part was that Emily wasn't even willing to acknowledge how bad things were. She didn't even seem to understand why I was so upset. She just wanted to keep everything neat and tidy like nothing was really wrong. That evening, I finally gathered the courage to call her. I wasn't sure what I was expecting, maybe a tearful apology, maybe some kind of explanation. What I got was a defensive tone and a whole lot of silence. I'm not coming back, Emily, I said. This isn't something I can just forget. There was a long pause and then she finally spoke. Please don't leave me. But I couldn't stay. Not like this. Not with her defending that monster. I didn't want to hate her, but the longer I stayed, the more I realized I was becoming someone I didn't recognize, someone who could ignore the truth for the sake of convenience. I don't know if I can ever look at you the same way again, I said. I need to figure out who I am without you. She begged me to come home, but I didn't. I couldn't. And just like that, the life I thought I had was over. Update. It's been a few weeks since I walked out. I won't lie, it hasn't been easy. The first few days were a blur. I stayed at my brother's place for a while, then found a small apartment. It wasn't much, but it was mine. No one else's drama. No more pretending. Emily tried calling a few times, but I didn't pick up. The texts became more desperate. Come back, she said. We can fix this. I'm sorry, but the apology never felt real. It didn't feel like she understood what had happened, what she had done. She was sorry for me being upset, not for what she'd excused. That was the difference. And I couldn't keep ignoring it. Sophie reached out a few times too, and every time, I felt like she was the one person who truly got it. She told me she was proud of me for standing up for what was right. You're doing the right thing, she said. You're not the one who's messed up. And she was right. I wasn't the one who was messed up. I didn't need to keep living in a house where I felt like I was walking on eggshells, trying to convince myself that everything was okay when it wasn't. I had to trust my gut even if it meant losing someone I loved. Because sometimes the truth isn't convenient. Sometimes you have to let go of people who refuse to see what's right in front of them. A few days ago, Emily texted me again. It was a long message. She begged me to come home. She said she was willing to change, that she didn't want to lose me. But it was too late. The damage was done. I couldn't unsee everything. I couldn't pretend I was okay with the fact that she didn't care about her sister, that she didn't care about what was truly important. I wrote back one last time. I can't. I'm sorry, but I've moved on. And that was it. I turned off my phone for a while and just sat in my apartment, finally feeling like I could breathe again. It's not easy to leave someone you thought you'd spend forever with, but sometimes it's the only thing you can do. You can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. I'm still processing everything. I don't know what's next, but I know one thing, I'm done pretending. And I'm okay with that.